Okay, welcome to the deep dive. So today we're looking at some really powerful source material, focusing on four people whose lives tangled together right at the very end of World War II.
Yeah, it's all set in this one place, this Italian Villa San Girolamo, bombed out, basically a ruin near Florence, 1945. The war is technically over, but, everything's still in pieces.
And that's our mission for this deep dive, right? We've got these fragments, these recollections, and we want to see how things like identity, memory, even loyalty, how they hold up when everything physically and informationally is just shattered.
Exactly. How do you make sense of anything? How do you survive when the world collapses? We're trying to connect the dots based on these intense sensory details.
And the dots connect around these four figures. There's the English patient himself, mysterious, burned so badly you can't tell who he is.
Then Hana, the Canadian nurse, young, dedicated, but carrying her own deep wounds.
And Caravaggio shows up an ex-thief, addicted to morphine, physically mutilated by the war.
And finally Kip, the sapper, the bomb disposal expert, Sikh, disciplined, an outsider in that world, all stuck together in this wreck of a villa.
It's like this fragile ecosystem built on shared damage, maybe, where normal allegiances just don't apply anymore.
That's a great way to put it. Human connection kind of takes over.
Yeah.
So let's dive straight in. The villa itself, it really sets the stage, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The descriptions are so vivid. It used to be a nunnery, then the Germans used it, and now it's just this shell. And potentially dangerous, right? Mines left behind.
Definitely dangerous.
Yeah.
And desolate. I mean, there's this detail about a huge hole in the library roof from a bomb, lets the moon in, lets the rain in.
And the scarcity. They're burning furniture to stay warm.
Yeah.
Chairs, tables, anything that isn't too waterlogged.
Right, like that armchair in the library, it survived because it was too soaked to burn.
Yeah.
It paints this picture of just constant basic survival, fighting the cold, navigating the ruins.
And right in the middle of it all, there's Hana. She's, 20? A Canadian nurse. Everyone else from the hospital unit evacuated, but she stayed.
She refused to leave him, the patient.
Why, though? Why stay in that ruin, basically alone? Is she hiding from something?
Well, yeah, in a way. It's like a deliberate retreat. She's lost so much already. Her father, Patrick. And the sources mention she lost a child herself earlier in the war, in Sicily. It's heavy stuff.
So staying is a kind of protection.
I think so. Protection from the wider world, maybe. A world that demands duty for the greater good, but feels like it betrayed her personally. So she shrinks her world down to just this one task, caring for this anonymous man.
Caring for him like a king, the source says, even while living like a vagrant herself.
Exactly. And there's this incredible self-sufficiency about her, too, that image of the crucifix.
Oh, right. From the bombed-out chapel, 6 feet tall. She doesn't burn it for warmth, which you might expect.
No, she drags it outside to her little vegetable patch and builds a scarecrow out of it, hangs sardine cans on it so they rattle.
It's such a powerful act. Like, forget reverence. This is about survival now. Using the symbols of the old world to protect her immediate needs.
It's pure defiance, a new kind of ritual for a broken world.
So Hana creates this tiny, controlled world in the ruin. But the center of it is this man who is, he's the ultimate ruin, isn't he? No face, no identity, left by the fire.
Utterly anonymous. Yet, and this is the central puzzle, he's described as a reservoir of information.
A complete paradox. He's got no visible identity, sometimes no color, no speech or song, as the source puts it. But when he does talk...
It's about incredibly specific things almost no one else would know. Bedouin dialects, desert geography, the names of winds.
Like the Kamzin, right. He explains it means 50 in Arabic, the 50 days it blows, seen as the 9th plague of Egypt.
And the harmattan, that wind-carrying red dust from Africa. So fine it falls as blood rains in Europe sometimes. It's knowledge that crosses borders.
It's knowledge of the earth, not of nations or armies. Maps, not flags.
Exactly. Deep, almost geological secrets, which is precisely what makes Caravaggio so suspicious when he arrives.
Caravaggio. Friend of Hana's father, Patrick. He used to be a thief, then worked for Allied intelligence. Until he got caught.
And tortured. We need to be clear about what they did. They cut off his thumbs.
Which, for a thief, someone who works with their hands.
It's not just pain. It destroys his entire way of being, his skill, his identity. It breaks him, leaves him addicted to morphine. He's always asking Hana for it for his Brompton cocktail that mixed used for pain.
And he becomes obsessed with the patient. He thinks he knows who he is.
He suspects he's Almasi, a Hungarian desert explorer, possibly someone who collaborated with the Germans. Caravaggio needs to know.
It's more than just spying, isn't it? For Caravaggio, it feels personal. He suffered, he was betrayed, he lost his identity in a brutal, physical way. And here's this guy wrapped in bandages, deliberately anonymous.
It feels like an insult to Caravaggio, like the patient is hiding from the consequences that Caravaggio couldn't escape. So he pushes Hana, needs that morphine to get the patient talking, to see where it will all go. He wants the truth, whatever it costs.
And eventually, maybe helped by the morphine, the patient does start talking. His past spills out, and it's all set in the desert North Africa, back in the 1930s.
And right away, we get his philosophy, his worldview. He says he came to hate nations.
We are deformed by nation states. That's the quote. He loved the desert precisely because it felt free of all that. No borders, no flags, no ownership.
A place where identity could maybe be purer, less defined by external labels. It's a strong anti-nationalist stance.
But there's a huge irony there, isn't there? I mean, he's an explorer, funded, using passports, maps, operating entirely within the systems created by nations.
Absolutely. He relies on the very structures he claims to despise. And his actions, particularly his affair, have massive consequences tied directly to national interests and intelligence.
Yeah, the affair. That's the heart of his story. He was out there searching for Zerzura, this mythical oasis of little birds.
And he meets the Cliftons, Geoffrey Clifton and his wife, Catherine. Geoffrey, it turns out, is secretly working for British intelligence, keeping an eye on Almacy's group.
And Almacy falls for Catherine hard.
Initially through her voice, actually. She reads poetry aloud. But the moment that really signals the danger ahead is when she reads from Herodotus.
The story of Candles and Gyges.
Exactly. Candles, the king, is so proud of his wife's beauty, he forces his bodyguard, Gyges, to secretly watch her undress.
Which leads to disaster, right? The queen finds out, feels betrayed, and forces Gyges to kill the king and marry her instead.
It's not just foreshadowing. It's like Catherine is handing Almacy the playbook for their own situation. She's showing him the danger, maybe even initiating the betrayal of her husband by sharing that specific story. Gyges takes the king's place, his wife, his power.
And Almacy essentially does the same to Clifton. He usurps his place.
He does. And that betrayal spirals. Clifton eventually tries to kill them all by crashing his plane in the desert. He dies, but Catherine is terribly injured.
Almacy carries her to the Cave of Swimmers, a real place, famous for its ancient rock paintings. He has to leave her there to get help.
But trying to get help is what dooms him. He runs into a British patrol, desperately yells Catherine's name, the name of the wife of their dead intelligence operative, and they immediately arrest him as a potential spy.
And before he leaves her in the cave, he does something extraordinary.
Heartbreaking, really. He finds natural pigments in the cave, ochre and blue, like the ones used in the ancient paintings, and he paints her injured body with them.
Why? What was he doing?
The source says it was to make her eternal. Like, he's trying to write their private tragedy into the grand sweep of history, like Herodotus wrote about wars and kings, a personal ritual against oblivion.
But instead of finding help or making her eternal, he ends up imprisoned. And later, when he finally gets back to her flying a plane he got by trading desert maps to the Germans.
The plane catches fire. He crashes. And that's how he becomes the burned, unrecognizable patient Hana is caring for years later in the villa. All that history, all that passion, literally consumed by fire.
Wow. That destructive passion of the patient's past. It stands in such stark contrast to the fourth person who arrives at the villa, Kip, Kirpal Singh.
Yes, Kip the sapper, the bomb disposal expert. He represents something entirely different. Discipline, control, focus.
And incredible danger. His job is terrifying. Working for the UXB unit's unexploded ordnance, the source mentions the life expectancy was just 10 weeks.
10 weeks. It's almost impossible to comprehend that level of constant risk. He's literally taking apart the destructive machinery of the war, piece by piece.
And his training was unusual, to say the least, under Lord Suffolk.
Ah, the eccentric Lord Suffolk, who apparently believed defusing a bomb was like playing two-handed bridge. You had to understand your opponent, the bomb itself, its character, the mind of the person who designed it.
It's about finding the human intention within the mechanism of destruction.
Precisely. Which makes that detail about Miss Mordaunt, Suffolk's assistant, even more surreal.
The Cologne incident. You have to share that.
Right. Apparently, while Kip was working on defusing this massive bomb out on that famous chalk course hillside landmark, Miss Mordaunt dips a lace handkerchief in her own cologne and hands it to him to refresh him.
In the middle of defusing a giant bomb, it's insane. It's like the height of British stiff upper lip meeting mortal danger.
It perfectly captures the absurdity, doesn't it? But for Kip, that precision, that focus, is his form of civilization. It's how he survives, especially as an outsider, the anonymous member of another race, as the source calls him.
He finds his own kind of self-sufficiency through that discipline, and his relationship with Hana feels different too, compared to Almasy and Catherine's.
Much different. It's slower, quieter, more careful, born out of shared exhaustion, maybe. A need for simple connection and control in the chaos. Hana seems drawn to his focused calm.
But even Kip's carefully controlled world gets shattered, doesn't it, by the end of the war? Or rather, the way the war ends.
Yes, the news comes over the shortwave radio. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, the atomic bombs. This terrible event, as the source puts it.
And for Kip, who spent the war meticulously dismantling individual bombs, trying to understand the intention behind them, this is something else entirely.
It's indiscriminate. It's on a scale that just breaks his understanding of warfare, of the English civilization he'd been fighting for. The trust is gone, completely shattered.
He confronts the English patient then, doesn't he? Sees him differently now.
He does. He sees the patient, this Englishman, possibly a collaborator, as embodying the entire Western power structure that could unleash such horror. He calls him the father who breaks justice in two.
That line is incredibly powerful. The father, the nation, the authority you trust, breaking the very idea of justice.
He actually raises his rifle, points it at the patient, ready to kill this symbol of betrayal.
But he doesn't.
No, he lowers it, throws the rifle down, throws the cartridge away.
Yeah.
But the break is absolute. His allegiance is finished.
And he leaves. Just gets on his motorbike and rides away from the villa, away from the war's aftermath.
Heads south, reversing his journey, in a way. Undoing the path that brought him into the heart of the English war. Hashtag outro.
It's just an incredible collision of people and histories in that one ruined place. You've got the patient wanting to erase himself, defined by knowledge nobody needs.
You've got Caravaggio, desperate to uncover that identity, fueled by pain and morphine.
And Hana and Kip finding this fragile, temporary peace together amidst the destruction, only to have it blown apart by the final act of the war itself.
They were all looking for some kind of safety, weren't they? Whether it was in anonymity or addiction or discipline. And maybe none of it really worked in the end. When Kip's discipline failed him, all he could do was run.
And that last image of the patient asking Hana for a mirror right before he dies, after everything, wanting to see the unrecognizable face he'd become.
Seeking that visual confirmation of the self that was lost, perhaps.
Which brings us to the final thought the source material kind of leaves us with. It's about Kip. Years later, he's back home, he's a doctor, has a family.
But he's described as having this strange, limited gift. He sometimes has these visions, these silent glimpses of Hana back in her life in Canada.
But it's just her face, right? Her expressions, her hair growing longer. He doesn't see who she's with or what she's doing, really. Just her, silently observed.
Yeah. An unjudging gaze across continents, across time, which makes you wonder, and this is the question for you, the listener. Could it be that for these characters so damaged by war and allegiance, the ultimate form of peace or freedom isn't about belonging to a nation or even physical safety? But maybe it's found in simply being seen, truly seen, but without judgment. Like silent, distant observers of each other's ongoing lives.
Something to think about. What does that kind of seeing, that kind of distance really mean?